Okay, so welcome to the next episode of The Caveman Show. I said previously that I would build on that foundation we laid in that first episode. So hopefully you listened to that and you understood the general gist that health and fitness doesn't have to be hard. And the reason people fail is because it's set up in the wrong way. And I wanted to go a bit more into the specifics of how to get in shape and stay in shape. Really, the easy way is the correct way. And when you're doing things correctly, there isn't that sense of battling or struggling against the tide. The reason why fitness seems so hard for people and it seems like they need so much discipline is because they're doing things wrong. And I wanted to start to get a little bit more specific. And the first thing I want to talk about is nutrition. That's what people ask me about the most. And it's probably the thing that people are the most disillusioned with and get things really horribly wrong when it comes to nutrition. And that's not their fault. That's not most people's fault. Don't want to point fingers here, but that is social conditioning. The imagination of society and the way that society looks at food and nutrition and what's healthy and what's not, and what's, a fit food and what's not a fit food is really completely wrong. And something that is another kind of key theme that I'm going to touch upon in these conversations is that a lot of times when you're doing something wrong and you're getting pain points and you're coming up against problems, especially problem after problem, especially if you've been doing something a certain way for years, you want to try the opposite. And a lot of times that really yields great results. And it kind of makes sense. If you've been doing your whole life and that's been causing you pain, then try B. And you'd be shocked at how quick results can come when you change what you're doing. And a lot of times people don't realize how drastic the change needs to be. So let's get specific without being too esoteric. Most people, when they think about nutrition, and by the way, I put my hands up because I used to tell people to do this. Most people think that it's calories in, calories out. Most people's problem in America is, and the Western world in general, is excess weight. They're too fat. And the idea is that they need to eat less and move more. That's the one thing everyone agrees on, is that there's too many calories going in and not enough calories going out. So people need to exercise more, burn more calories, and they need to eat less calories. So if that's your starting point, that it's all about calories in, calories out, then you're going to logically think that the best thing to do is to find a way to eat as few calories as possible. I'm not saying that that's completely wrong, by the way. That is an aspect to it. You see it with Ozempic, right? People are taking Ozempics, but I live in LA. People are taking Ozempic left, right, and center. And it works because it stops you from eating. You just have zero appetite. And, that works for a time. That's one of those situations where health and fitness are two different things. They're getting fitter because they're getting leaner, fitter, and they look fitter. But there's all sorts of health problems going on. And we won't get into that because I don't really know too much about it. That's really going to be a separate episode that I think would be really entertaining because I want to learn about it. So if there's anyone out here who really knows their stuff on Ozempic, maybe a pharmacist or something, then let me know. But that's not the point. Point is, yes, when you drastically cut your calories in, you will lose weight. But that's not the whole equation. So because we had it set up like that, it makes sense for people to have as few calories as possible. And that's why I used to, and it did work to some degree, to a very sort of mediocre level. It did work that if you ate super high protein, which is really physically filling, it literally extends your belly. And then your belly has these sort of nerve receptors that sense this physical fullness, and they say to some extent, stop eating, I'm full. You're not satisfied, but you're uncomfortably full. And so that works. So high protein, high fiber. Fiber is just roughage, they call it in England. You could eat paper and probably get fiber in there. It physically fills your belly. So super high fiber food, so lots and lots of vegetables and beans and blah, 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 blah. That kind of works to a very mediocre level too. Constantly drinking water, which actually I think more people do need to drink water. So I actually kept that one in for my clients. But the super high protein, super high fiber thing, I don't do anymore. You'll understand why in time. So it makes sense because with those foods, you can have a lot of physical fullness with low calories, right? Lean proteins and super high fiber. The problem is you feel awful, you perform awful, your body will start to sacrifice things. You will age faster. Yes, you will be lean, but you will pay a very, very big price. And you won't get super lean either. And you probably won't be able to keep keep it up. You probably do need iron discipline because you're not actually satisfied, you're just full. So where am I going with this? This whole calories in versus calories out equation. So that's the problem with just drastically cutting your calories in, is you pay a price for it. And it's really hard. Like, even if you can do it for a short period of time, you can't keep it up forever, because what's happening is your body's not actually getting the nutrients that it wants. We evolved as hunter-gatherers, the plains of Africa, and even when we left Africa, human beings spent most of their time as hunter-gatherers and at the top of the food chain. We were not just scavengers running away from saber-toothed tigers and stuff. We were at the top of the food chain. That was a problem. We actually killed off so many animals because we were so effective at hunting. We have evolved to eat meat, usually red meat, usually comes with fat, large game. We evolved to eat meat. If you look at our digestive system, and this will be a whole nother podcast, I'm not going to get too far into this, but just take my word for it for now. We evolved to eat meat. There's plenty of anthropological and biological evidence that shows that we were meant to eat meat and large amounts of it. And that's why it tastes so good. That's why meat tastes so good. But we are told to avoid it because it has too many calories because of the fat, and it gives you heart disease and blah 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 blah. Another separate podcast, right? The whole heart disease thing. That's wrong. So where am I going with this? The foods that we love, that satisfy us, that we really truly enjoy, are our health foods because our body is evolved to eat them. Now, where does that come into the whole calories in versus calories out equation? Yes, there is a lot of calories in meat, right? Think of a steak or a ribeye, which is similar to what we would have been eating on the plains, when we were hunter-gatherers. Large game, not super lean, maybe less fatty than, some of the factory farmed meats that we have now. Another separate discussion. But basically, a ribeye or a New York or whatever, steak is very similar to what we would have been eating throughout most of our evolution and what our bodies want. And that's why it tastes so good, even to vegans. Okay, they've done studies on this. If you hook up vegans' brains to EKGs, I forgot what the machine is, but if you measure their brain waves, basically they register hunger, desire to eat when they see and smell a steak, even if they say they don't. So human beings love meat. Everyone loves meat. Kids love meat. Like, I have a 3-year-old, he loves red meat. And we're told not to eat it. So you see how socially we are being set up to fail, because we are being told not to eat the things that we want. And our drives are much stronger than our conscious thinking brain. If you tell yourself, don't do this, but you have this deep biological drive going back millions of years to do something, eventually your willpower is going to run out, your brain battery is going to be on E, and you're going to give up and you're going to eat that thing, right? Or do that thing, not just with regard to food, with anything. You cannot fight your biological drives, so there's no point in trying. Luckily, you don't have to. I'm talking about meat, but there are other foods too. I'm going to talk about fruit, I'm going to talk about dairy and stuff like that. But meat, and specifically the saturated fat in meat. So we know this, human beings love sugar, salt, and fat. That's what makes something really, really delectable and very possible to resist, right? But I'm just talking about fats for now, and I'm talking about animal fats specifically. So yeah, meat, but also, dairy, like butter and cheese and stuff like that. People absolutely love it, and they will eat it like to no end. They will binge on it. It's one of those foods that people simply can't resist. And it's not because we're stupid, all right? It's not because our bodies are stupid. It's not because even our brains are stupid. It's not because we are just wired wrong. It's because those foods are actually healthy for us. They do a whole bunch of things in our body, supporting your hormones, building up all the systems of your body, hair, skin, nails, so many things I can go into, but I don't want to go too deep into now, that are healthy. And those large amount of calories that we would be taking in with saturated fats, butters, cheeses, meats and stuff like that, even though it is high calorie, what happens is your metabolism actually goes up. So that's why this calories in versus calories out equation doesn't work. Your metabolism will drop drastically when you stop eating the nutrients that your body needs and craves and wants. When you stop eating meat and butter and eggs and dairy and these animal fats, let's just lump them all in, the correct animal fats. We don't want to go too far into the nitty gritty and get too pedantic, but there are good animal fats and there are not. When we eat these foods, our metabolism goes up, okay? When we eat plenty of saturated fats, which is exactly what we're being told not to by the pharmaceutical industry and the medical industry, which are kind of the same thing. When we're being told not to, and when we do, we don't keel over and die. Our metabolism goes up, our energy system goes up, you feel more energetic, you feel stronger, your muscles are fed, Again, hair, skin, nails, digestive system, immune system. There are your whole system. Just call it your system. Your whole system ramps up. So those extra 1,000 calories a day that you are now taking in, your metabolism also goes up. So you in 1,000 and out 1,000. And the out is to healthy things like reproductive system. So your libido and whatnot, hair, skin, as I've spoken about, all these systems that were previously suppressed because we weren't getting the nutrients that your body needs to actually charge these systems up, then jack up. So it's a wash. What tends to happen with people, and I've seen this, right? So the numbers have to come second to this. The math has to come second. I always say chemistry is more important than math when it comes to fitness. What tends to happen is people actually do lose fat, right? They eat massive amounts. I've done this myself. I've had 4 pounds of meat a day for months and body fat dropped. So what tends to happen with people is their metabolism goes up. So if their calories in has gone up, but their calories out, meaning their metabolism and their energy systems, go up as well, and it goes up slightly higher than the calories in. And that's without doing any excess work. We're not talking about burning calories here consciously, like working out and exercising. We're not talking about having to really do anything. I'm just talking about sitting on your ass. Like right now, my hair is regenerating, my skin is, I've got these cuts on my hands, these cuts are regenerating, my digestive system is working, my reproductive system is working, everything is being charged up, my muscles are recovering from workouts, all of these things, that's just metabolism. That's completely your basal metabolic rate, completely unconscious, nothing you can do about it. I could sit on my ass all day long and watch Netflix and my metabolism is still charged up and working and doing things, right? That's what you want. That is the highest point of leverage for you. You want your metabolism high, and that's how you end up losing fat. And when your metabolism is high, it's very easy to drop fat or maintain low body fat. But when you were previously on your calories in, calories out equation, high protein, high fiber, to try to keep your calories at, say, 2,000 for me, or 2,000 calories versus where it is now, which is about 3,400, right? Almost double what I used to eat. When my calories was super low, I would suffer. My skin would suffer, my libido would suffer, my testosterone was half of what it is now. You know, it was hard to recover. I was very tired all the time. So yeah, my metabolism was much, much lower. So it actually makes perfect sense. I've lost body fat by eating almost double the calories. And it's because I used to previously avoid things like red meat and butter and eggs. I would avoid it like a plague. I would avoid all fats. I would just have protein and fiber and water. And I maintained a relatively low body fat, but I dropped even more and my metabolism went up and my quality of life went up tremendously. And I've seen it with client after client after client. So if you're trying to like listen to what I'm saying and then get an action plan of what to do, I'm not giving you an action plan just yet. I'm trying to describe and move from the first tenet, which is you don't have to suffer. It doesn't have to be awful. In fact, it shouldn't be. There should be an ease and a flow to your fitness. Fitness does not have to be impossible. It can be pleasurable. In fact, it should be. Can be enjoyable. In fact, it should be. So starting to rewire yourself so that you realize that you are born to be fit. That is your natural state. It's just we are living out of sync with our natural state in our modern environment with things like fear of red meat, fear of butter, fear of eggs, fear of saturated fats. And this isn't, by the way, I ain't trying to isolate vegans or vegetarians. We can do more stuff in the future where you can still be a vegetarian and be healthy. You can still be a vegan even and be healthy. I'm not hating on anyone right now, right? Again, separate conversation, we can touch on that stuff, but I'm not telling you what to eat just now. I'm using red meat, butter, eggs, cream, cheese, all of these saturated fats, coconut oil, even cocoa butter, as examples of how and why we are wired the wrong way in modern society, why fitness has been set up so it's so hard, and why it doesn't have to be hard with a little bit of education and a little bit of nous and looking a little bit deeper into the root cause of the issue. And this bodes for both health, so if someone's overweight and diabetic and just wants to be healthy, or fitness, which is where someone's healthy but wants to be like really fit, like have a six-pack or whatever, be lean or whatever, men, women, whatever. So that's across the board. Everyone can do this. Another one is sugar. We love sugar. Okay, so I have to do a part 2 to this nutrition series. We've spoken about animal fats. Next one I'm going to talk about is sugar, but I'm going to leave you with this. Sugar is not the demon that we've been told it is either. So we're constantly pointing fingers, and we are pointing fingers in the wrong direction. I personally believe that animal fats are more important for most people. Saturated fats, at least. We'll call it that in case you're a vegan. I personally believe that you should start adding saturated fats back into your diet first, but sugars have a place too. We love sugar. We have eaten sugar for even probably pre-human times, like when we were primates and stuff like that. We always ate sugar. Kids love sugar. We love sugar. It tastes so like it's addictive. Why is it addictive? It's not bad for us. The sugar by itself, actually, our bodies have like glucose receptors and function very well on sugar. I'll leave you there because I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole. But if you're looking for homework, I would say start to introduce saturated fats back into your environment. So that's coconut oil. Look it up. Coconut oil, cocoa butter if you're a vegan. If you're a vegetarian, then butter, cheese, dairy fats. And then if you're just a normal person without weird dietary restrictions, then red meat. Try to eat as much red meat as possible, or at least as much as your body desires. Another thing, we'll talk about this. Go with what your body desires. Like, ease up. Stop forcing yourself, stop whipping yourself by telling yourself not to eat certain things, and ease up and allow yourself to eat what your body truly desires. You will be shocked at the benefits. You can still lose weight and eat a bunch of fat, okay? Don't worry, we're getting there. Yeah, that's all I have to say for today. I'm gonna leave it there. This went a little bit longer than I wanted it to. I was trying to keep this to 15 minutes, but I'm a bit of a ranter. So yeah, if you have any questions, queries, comments, concerns, let me know. And I'm gonna follow this up with a part 2 on sugar soon. Watch this space. Peace. Okay, so welcome to episode 3 of the Caveman Show. Last time we spoke about meat and animal fats, and that was part of the nutrition section where we're basically discussing how the foods that human beings are wired to eat are the ones that are healthiest for us, and also the ones that we gain the most pleasure out of, that we find hardest not to eat. And the reason that people are so out of shape is because they are out of touch with their natural inclinations, their nature. And as a society, we are being told to avoid the foods that are healthy and eat the foods that are unhealthy. We haven't spoken too much about exactly what is unhealthy. We focus on the foods that are healthy, but we've spoken about how as a society we kind of have our wires crossed, and we are avoiding the very foods that we should be eating out of fear. And the first fear we have is fats, animal fats. We think that red meat is going to give us heart disease and make us fat, and butter is going to clog our arteries, and yada yada yada. And that simply isn't true. We can get more into the science of this in the future. These are smaller episodes where I'm kind of setting the table, and if people want to get super sciencey about it or get more technical about it, and inevitably I'm sure people are going to want to know and have the science on heart disease. That's a big one. Cholesterol, stuff like that. I briefly touched on it, told you don't worry about cholesterol, and that's a big bold claim, but I'm very, very confident in it. And yes, I am a personal trainer, I'm not a doctor, and a lot of doctors will send me hate mail probably, but I've spoken to a lot of doctors. I know a lot of doctors. I have tremendous respect for doctors, but they're not gods, so it's possible that they're wrong. In this particular case, they are wrong. The medical establishment with regard to cholesterol and heart disease is wrong. The pharmaceutical industry with regard to cholesterol and heart disease is very wrong, and I'm pretty sure they know that they're wrong. So that's a whole nother thing. Again, let's try to stay focused on what we're talking about. We've spoken about animal fats. We will speak about them again. We will talk about cholesterol and stuff like that. But today, I wanted to move on to sugars. So, sugar. People are deathly afraid of sugar. Up until relatively recently, I wouldn't say deathly afraid of it, but I had a healthy cynicism, skepticism of sugar, and I would tell my clients particularly and myself to avoid sugar as much as possible. But I always kind of knew that fruit was okay. I never severely limited fruit. I went keto for a while, and the one thing that I really craved when I was keto, it wasn't like carbs and pizza and pasta and stuff like that. It was sugar. Like sugar was something that the craving, I never got over the craving. So whenever I would do long-term keto, I always craved sugar, something sweet and sour, and it hits a lot of the taste receptors and the pleasure receptors that we have. We have a natural inclination for sweetness, and the reason we have a natural inclination for sweetness is if you were in nature and there were no animals around to eat, or you couldn't hunt, and for some reason you wanted to just have non-animal foods, plants. If you were to go around, say you're in the jungle, picture yourself in the jungle, there's no one else around, can't find any animals, or the animals you can find you can't hunt. What are you going to eat? If you went around and started eating leaves, right, how would you fare, right? Not very good. They're bitter. They are telling you that they are not meant to be eaten. You take one bite into a leaf and it's bitter or sour or whatever you want to call it. It tastes really, really bad. You wouldn't be able to eat it. And if you did, if for some reason you ignored or didn't have that sense of bitterness, you would get very sick and you'd probably die. And if you think that that's an over-exaggeration, try going to the forest and living in the forest without any food for months on end and see how you do eating random plants, right? Anything that's bitter is telling you very strongly to not eat it. The flip side of that is sweetness is a very good, and I'm not saying that this is completely blanket 100% of the time, but the vast majority of the time, something sweet is saying this is safe to eat. Not only is it safe to eat, but it is healthy. It is nutritious. It's going to give you energy. It's going to give you nutrients. This is something that you want to eat. And that is your brain, right? That's a combination of your taste receptors, your physical, mechanical taste receptors, going up into the brain and understanding and having a feedback loop where you are basically registering that, your brain is registering that at least, as safe to eat. And so sweetness is a shortcut in nature, or a communication between nature and between yourself, of safety and nutrition. So it stands for, it's a symbol for safety and nutrition. And when we were in the wild, which wasn't that long ago, if you're living in nature, if you only ate what was sweet and avoided what was bitter, you would not only survive, but you would thrive, okay? And the main thing we're talking about here is fruit. Of course, there's honey and maple syrup, and there's other things too. But by and large, what we're talking about here is fruit, okay? Because fructose is the molecule that creates sweetness, by and large, in nature. So fructose is the sweet molecule. And whenever there's fructose in a food, it's going to be relatively safe to eat. Again, don't take everything I say as gospel. I'm just giving you a general outline. And yet, in nature, we are told avoid sugar, and it's problematic. If anyone has kids, they don't avoid sugar. They love sugar. It's impossible. You give them one taste of sugar and they want more. Why is that? Is it because they're stupid? I don't think so. No, I think they're very smart. Sugar is very healthy. It's very good for you. Taken out of context, it causes problems. So when you take sugar out of its natural matrix, out of its natural structure, which is going to be generally fruit, and to in some rare circumstances, you're going to find something like sugarcane. But human beings have planted that all over the world outside of where it should or could be. So we've isolated sugar from its main vehicle, which would be fruit. And when you take it out of that context and then you artificially put it into things like candy or high fructose corn syrup, or everything basically, yeah. Well, we get it from corn nowadays. Modern food industry generally gets its stuff from sugar from corn because it's cheap, and that's a whole nother thing we can talk about, and we will. But when you take it out of its context, yes, it causes problems. Anything out of context is causing a problem. You could argue that is what a problem is, something being out of its natural context, out of its natural environment, a fish out of water, so to speak. And so sugar outside of its natural matrix, outside of its home, may and will cause problems. Probably not as much as our society society tends to think. I don't think even table sugar is as bad as people say it is. Just having looked at, for example, the older generation of people where I come from, my ancestors are from Iran, they'll take a sugar cube and suck on it while they drink tea, and they're not like fat or they don't have diabetes or anything like that, or they didn't used to. Nowadays, obviously people do because they're living in a modern environment, but like traditionally, sugar in moderation wasn't a problem. Even table sugar. I don't eat table sugar, and I don't think you should either. Again, I stick to nature as much as possible. So I personally have a lot of sugar, but it's all in the form of fruit, okay? A, because I love it, and B, because it comes with other nutrients. C, because it's natural, and I like natural stuff. We'll talk more about that. But yeah, sugar in the context of where it is meant to be, fruit, is not a problem. If you look at candy, right, which is basically a scientist's or a modern trick, right? It's a trick from the food industry, from food scientists, to trick us, particularly children, but even adults, adults eat candy, into thinking that this is a fruit. And why do we do it? Because it is cheap. So follow the money with this stuff and you'll see why we have so many problems. Candy, there are two main facets of candy that really you need, right? One is the taste, right? So we've spoken about how fructose is sweet, so they'll take fructose out of its natural context, which nowadays we're going to do with things like corn. It used to be cane sugar, or even beets sometimes, but we would take a crop that we could very cheaply produce. Obviously, we had slavery, which was even cheaper. So we had a sugar cane, which was very, very cheap and easy to plant and grow. And then we had slaves working those sugar plantations. And that's when the sugar boom happened during slavery. And we got a taste for sugar and we got addicted to it. But we were taking it out of its natural. That was the start of taking it out of its natural context. Now we do it on a mass industrial scale with corn. And we take sugar from corn and we make things like high fructose corn syrup. Or cornstarch. What is it? So we're taking that sugar. It's so cheap. It's a cheat code, right? Our brain thinks that we're in the wild. So when it registers the fructose from corn, it says, oh, this is a safe and healthy food to eat. The brain is being tricked. It is not infallible to tricks and illusions. And so we have taken that and isolated it very, very cheaply away from all the nutrients and water and fiber and all the other things that would be found in a fruit. And we've put it into candy. And what is the other aspect of candy that kids and even adults love and really need, right? It's not there for no reason. Is candy is colored. Why is candy colored? Because fruit is colored. If you go look at any fruit tree, even like a lemon, which barely a fruit, doesn't taste good. I don't understand why people like lemons, but that's a separate thing. If you look at any fruit, like bananas, oranges, berries, mangoes, pineapples, whatever, you'll see color, right? And color is there in nature to attract your eye. Flowers are colorful because that is ultimately the candy of, or the fruit of birds, right, and bees. So every animal, including humans, love color. We are very attracted to color. Most of the time, it's something that pulls us in, right? Like fruit or flowers or whatever. Color pulls us in and it tells us it's another cheat code essentially of our brain that brings us that attracts us towards something like fruit, because the fruit is basically, seducing us and telling us, yo, look at me, I'm ripe, I'm ready to go, come and eat me. Why? The fruit wants to be eaten because that is how the plant reproduces. That is the sexual strategy of the plant, is to get an animal like a human to come eat the fruit and spread the seed, right? It is imperative. If that fruit lands straight down right next to the tree, which is essentially the mother, that is the baby. The fruit is the baby essentially, because it contains the seed of the tree. If it lands right there, it can't grow because it's competing for sunlight and soil and nutrients and water. It's competing for everything with the mother tree, right? So it needs to be spread. It is imperative. There's different ways that seeds get spread. Some do it via wind. There's asexual reproduction. There's a whole bunch of different strategies. But the fruit bearing trees, that strategy is to get an animal to move that fruit away. How does it do it? By sweetness of taste and color, visual color. The visual color is what attracts us in the first place, and then the sweetness is what makes us actually eat it and spread that seed. So going back to the candy trick, the candy trick is those two things, sweetness and color. So we put generally artificial, but sometimes it used to be natural food coloring in candy. There are not a lot of white candies. There's one or two, some mints and stuff like that, but nobody cares about mint. There are a few exceptions, but almost all candy is colored. And why do they bother to color it? Because a kid will not bother eating something if it is not colored. It is not, their brain is not engaged. They don't get that same dopamine hit. Again, what is it? This is a trick. You are tricking the brain into thinking that this is a fruit. Even drinks like Gatorade, colored. Why is it colored? It's to get your attention, and basically it's pretending it's a fruit, right? I know that sounds ridiculous, but that is how the brain works on a really primal, almost pre-human, animalistic, instinctual level. And that is what drives us, an emotional level. That is how we make our decisions, not consciously, subconsciously, on a deeper level. On that deeper level, we are being tricked, okay? We are being tricked visually by the color, and then we are being tricked again by the sweetness, and that's what seals the deal, and that's ultimately what creates that addiction. The reason we are addicted to sugar is because in nature it was healthy. It would be a very adaptive trait for you to A, see color and be attracted to it, and B, once you found something sugary, to really gorge on it. Like I've had this, and I'm pretty sure everyone has. When you get a taste of sugar on your tongue, there's this real moorishness, there's this drive for more. It's very hard to have a couple of pieces of whatever, something sweet, and just put it down. Now with fruit, because it's coming with water and all these other nutrients, and it's not overly sweet, it has some sourness to it as well. With fruit, it's actually quite hard to binge on it, you know, in an unhealthy way. Like I could probably get through a half watermelon, even a whole watermelon on a really sunny day, but like I couldn't do two. You know what I mean? You know, try having more than 2 apples in a sitting. It's hard. And so again, in nature, there's this perfect balance where you eat, if you were to eat according to your natural inclinations, you'd be fine. You know, you would eat, you would be satisfied. Again, that context, and you would eat in a healthy, moderate way, and you wouldn't overeat. But when you take it out of its natural context, yes, you can go through 1,000 calories of sugar in, you know, I'm struggling to even think because I don't really eat candy. But like, whatever. Insert your favorite candy. Yeah. Again, so it's about context. Now, going back, I've rambled a little bit, but going back to why sugar isn't healthy. We've covered why it's addictive and why in nature it wouldn't be so problematic, but in the modern world it is. I guess in the next episode, because I've run out of time, we will have to touch on exactly why you shouldn't be afraid of sugar and what the health benefits of sugar are, and why sugar can be included in your diet, and how it doesn't make you fat, doesn't give you diabetes, and it's fine to have. And even healthy, fit people have sugar. It's fine. So we will touch on that on the next episode. I'm going to wrap this one up. Key takeaway is in nature, and that's the key word of the day. Sugar is fine. It is healthy. There is a reason we are addicted to it. We are adapted to eat sugar. But that sugar should come in the form of fruit primarily, and natural sugars. So don't be afraid to have it. Don't be afraid to give it to your kids. Don't avoid it. The next episode will actually talk about why you should consciously include sugar in your diet and what the health benefits of that are. Okay? Yeah. Let me know what you think. Any comments, queries, concerns, suggestions. Do you hate me? Did you hate this episode? Do you hate sugar? Let me know. Happy to talk about it. See you in the next one. Peace. Okay, welcome to episode 6 of the Caveman Show. I think it's episode 6. Last time we were talking about, nutrition and how we can kind of trust our taste buds, and you can basically just eat what you want and get in shape. Sounds pretty good, right? There are some asterisks, there are some caveats, and it kind of boils down to the clash between what we're evolved for, which is nature, and the world we live in, which is a highly technologized modern world. And that clash between sort of the modern and the natural, essentially, is what's causing a lot of the problems, particularly obesity. That's the main one, but also there are some problems that branch off from that, which is diabetes and strokes and heart disease and all sorts of other things. So nasty things that we don't want. And so you've got fitness, so having a six-pack on one end of the spectrum, and then you've also got on the other end of the spectrum really, really low health, which is obesity, heart disease, cancer as well is part of that, diabetes. And if you look at rates of heart disease and cancer, and obviously diabetes too, they have spiked dramatically, or at least gone up steadily and dramatically from the 50s, and probably since way before that too. So what we see is that as we eat more modern foods, and yes, it's also having more calories, available to us, but as we eat more modern foods and live in a more sort of modern and tech-centered world, our health has essentially gone down, and that's with better medicine. We have much better medicine, and yet still our health outcomes are deteriorating. It's not all doom and gloom, don't get me wrong. This isn't something where, we have to think that the world is all burning and everything's going to shit and we should just give up. It's not true at all. There's lots of stuff we can do, and there's lots of positives as well. I'm just talking about a problem that is increasing and how to fix that problem. So that is the situation. Why is this happening? Modern foods. What does modern foods mean? We touched on it last time. The main one I want to talk about today is seed oils. Now, this is a kind of barbed wire, landmine filled topic. It is very controversial. There are a lot of people in the fitness community who do not know what the hell they're talking about, but they are telling the truth, warning about the dangers of seed oils, but they don't really understand it because it's a lot of boring biochemistry. And I try these things out for myself and with my clients, and I see what the results are. And if the results are positive, then I'm pretty sure I'm onto something. And that is the case with seed oils. Now, let's set the table a little bit. Seed oils is a complex subject because it is a meaningless term. There are so many terms that are used interchangeably. Vegetable oils and seed oils. Vegetable oils sounds a lot more friendly and marketable. So, the food companies essentially use vegetable oil a lot instead of seed oil. So people who want to vilify seed oils say seed oils, because that sounds a bit more seedy, and people who want to glorify it and say that this is the most amazing thing that we've ever invented call it vegetable oils. That sounds really, vegetable oils, that sounds great. They're essentially the same thing. Sometimes vegetable oils and seed oils contain something that is neither a vegetable nor a seed oil, which would include fruit oils, which is essentially coconut and palm oil are fruits, oil of the fruit. Those are not vegetable oils or seed oils, so those are not. I'm not going to use that as part of it, but sometimes food labeling includes coconut oils and seed oils. When I'm talking about seed oils, I'm talking about, stuff you can't even really pronounce, like rapeseed and cottonseed. Also includes peanut, soybean, sunflower, safflower, high oleic sunflower. I would also include like nut butters in that. So things like almond butter and peanut butter as well. And on the edge of it, I actually include seeds and nuts. But seed oils are obviously much worse because they are an unnatural form of those seeds and nuts where they're taking the oil out. Now, so that's the term. Seed oils and vegetable oils are used interchangeably, and that is what we're talking about here. Also, people use the term PUFAs, polyunsaturated fats. Another word that is not the same. These are not necessarily the same, but they're used interchangeably and they kind of get to the same place, is omega-6s. Now, all of these things are things that I'm going to tell you bad for you, and you should immediately go through your pantry and get rid of these things. And I'll tell you why too. Omega-6s is how when I was kind of coming up in the nutrition world, when I first became a trainer and started learning about nutrition, omega-6s were not quite a demon, but the thing that you had to look out for, because we've known for a long time that your omega-6 to omega-3 ratio is going to dictate. If you have a lot of omega-6s in your diet, which the standard American diet, the SAD diet has, you're going to lead to poor health outcomes, mainly through the mechanism of increased inflammation, because every cell in your body is comprised of omega fatty acids, and if there's too much omega-6s in the cells of your body, that leads to systemic inflammation, chronic systemic inflammation. If you have chronic systemic inflammation, you are going to have poor health outcomes with all over the board. Okay, so all boats rise with the tide and all boats sort of sink with the tide as well. And so everything is going to suffer ultimately. And the big ones that we knew about, fat gain, diabetes, increased risk of heart disease, inflammation, pain, but also other things like your hormones will tank, your sex hormones, whether you're a male or female, your sex hormones will be all out of whack, and they will tank your immune system, muscle gain. There are some benefits to omega-6s because there are some benefits to inflammation in general. It's just a question of how much. In nature, you would have very low amounts of omega-6s in your system. In our modern world, we have massive amounts, and we're told that even though there are tiny health benefits to having a tiny amount, that's completely taken out of context by reliable institutions like even like Harvard Health and stuff like that. If you go online, there's all sorts of scientific nutritionists talking about how amazing omega-6s are. I mean, we're going to talk about this in another episode, but more than likely those people are in the pocket of massive food companies, food conglomerations, nutrition conglomerations, pharmaceutical conglomerations. There is some nefarious things going on which we can't really get into. The point of today is to tell you why you should care about seed oils and why you shouldn't have them in the diet and why they're causing havoc with the modern diet. So a little bit of history. They were introduced in the late 19th century, really early 20th century the original product was Crisco. I actually forget exactly what type of seed oil it is, but it previously was an industrial lubricant, and then I believe it was Procter & Gamble turned it into an oil for human food consumption because there was a shortage of what we previously were using for fats, which was beef tallow and lard. Pork fat used to be a lot healthier than it is now because the pork industry used to be a lot healthier than it is now. Another subject. Anyway, there was a shortage. It was very expensive. We thought, oh, bloody hell, how do we make a buck? How do we, keep our expenses low and increase profits? I know, let's use this industrial lubricant and give it to humans. And then, they gave it to them and they didn't die immediately. So they said, oh, this is great. They started marketing it, blah, blah, blah. It was very successful. Again, we could do a whole nother episode on that. It's really fascinating, actually, if you're into history and stuff, but it doesn't really matter for the purposes of that. Anyway, our consumption of seed oil. So all these other companies then jumped on this bandwagon. Our consumption of seed oils went up. As our consumption of seed oils went up, so did heart disease, cancer, and various other things. And people say it's only correlation, doesn't prove that seed oils actually caused this manifestation of poor health. It didn't make us fat and sick, essentially, which is what we are getting. We are getting fatter and sicker, and that's true. However, we do also understand the mechanism. So we understand that a high omega-6 to 3 ratio, which is what we have in the Western diet, does cause havoc via increased inflammation. It basically weakens and damages the cells of your body, and on a cellular level you are weaker and more inflamed than you otherwise would be by having all these omega-6s, unnaturally high amounts of omega-6s in your diet, and it kind of buries itself in the cells of your body, and it takes a long time before the cells of your body regenerate, reconstructed without high amounts of omega-6s being kind of the makeup of the cells of your body, and particularly your fat cells actually. And so essentially what they do is they go in and they weaken those fat cells. With regard to fat accumulation in general, they actually break your fat cells, and that's why it is so hard. If you have a lot of seed oils in your body, it's so hard to get rid of. It's so easy to gain fat and so hard to get rid of fat. Again, we can go really, really deep into the biochemistry, and what I've learned, I don't want to, it's kind of boring. So what I've learned is that the primary fatty acid that's causing most of the problem seems to be linoleic acid. So that's the primary form of the omega-6 that's causing all these problems, and it causes so many problems across the body. Lower amounts of sex hormones, increased fat accumulation, increased insulin resistance, which is a very bad thing. And again, like I said, you can track it as we've increased our consumption because we're being told that it's healthy, and really because it's cheap, which is what it is. So has our fat gain and diabetes and insulin resistance and so on and so forth. So it really kind of essentially poisons you on a deep level, on a cellular level, and it's very hard once you've consumed that for an extended period of time. It takes a long time for that to get out of your system. That linoleic acid, which is the form of omega-6 that we're really talking about here, kind of buries itself deep into your body and essentially doesn't get out, and it leads to all sorts of problems. There is a study, and one study doesn't prove anything, but there is a study which indicates that it is more dangerous than smoking 20 cigarettes a day. there is a study. I don't know what it is. Do your research, but there is a study that says that in terms of getting cancer, it is more dangerous than smoking, essentially, and that's because it is weakening you at a cellular level. So people can get on board with that and say, okay, I think most people have accepted, okay, we should switch out our seed oils, meaning peanut oil, cottonseed oil, soybean, safflower, blah 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 blah. All of those man-made, essentially, fats, modern man-made fats. I think a lot of people are on board with that now. That might not be news to anyone. Then they talk about seeds and nuts, right? Which is natural, right? And I've been harping on about how if you stick to nature, you'd be fine. There's a couple of caveats. Now, when I'm comparing, seed oils and seeds and nuts in their natural form, clearly, if you said I need to choose one, I would say keep the seeds and nuts, right? Because it's a natural form. It also has it does have some nutrients in it. It does have some vitamins and minerals in it. I would still point you away from that. And there's actually other things in seeds and nuts that are not in seed oils that are also damaging. Things like phytic acid and other anti-nutrients that essentially attack your body. And I would point you away from seeds and nuts too, because they do contain seed oils. They do contain omega-6. They do contain linoleic acid. Would we have them in nature? Yes, but we would have them in very, very low amounts. The type of seeds and nuts that we can eat, first of all, you'd have to process them. There are many nuts out there that if you were to eat them in nature without processing them, you would get sick. Sometimes you can die. There are nuts out there that if you eat in abundance, you would die. And you probably wouldn't eat them in abundance. Why? Because they're very, very, very bitter. You have to process nuts quite heavily and then roast them and then salt them until they're actually palatable. And that's because humans are not really equipped to deal with eating nuts. Yes, you can process some nuts and eat them. Yes, some hunter-gatherers do eat some nuts and seeds, but very, very rarely. I'll leave you with this because I think the next episode, I'm going to keep going with this nutrition thing. The next episode is going to be on plants and which plants we can eat and which plants we should eat, we ought to eat, what are beneficial to eat and which plants we shouldn't. But I'll leave you with this on nuts and seeds. And again, we can go more into the biochemistry if people are interested in it. When a pig or a deer or a bear in nature want to hibernate for the winter, what they do is they want to put on a big layer of fat that will keep them fed through winter but lower their energy system. So it's essentially the mechanism for getting as fat as possible and doing as little work as possible, because it's winter and winter is brutal for those animals. They don't have a brick house with a fireplace, so they go into hibernation. What do they eat? What do they seek out preferentially? Seeds and nuts and acorns, right? So that's what animals do. Yes, we are not animals in that regard, we're humans, but we're not that different. These are all mammals. So essentially, nuts and seeds will put you into a sort of hibernation mode. So if you do want to get fat and tired and lazy, eat plenty of nuts, eat plenty of seeds. They're fantastic for that. But if not, I would avoid it. There are even nuts that will literally, like, people have nut allergies and die from it. So there's a lot of toxins essentially in nuts. And I think so I'm going to leave this here and then we'll do another episode on this about the dangers of plants, essentially. What plants you should eat, what plants you shouldn't. We've touched on it briefly before, but I think a lot of people get really, really confused. This episode was touching on something that is very, very controversial. And there are going to be a lot of people out there that will get maybe quite upset about this and debate this. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. You shouldn't take anything I say at face value. You should take everything I say with a pinch of salt. If you're not convinced that you should avoid nuts and seeds because you've been told, essentially by people who are making lots of money off this, that nuts and seeds are super healthy and that seed oils are super, then fine. Maybe do your own research and maybe we'll touch upon this again. Because again, we didn't go too far into the biochemistry, but if you want to try something, what I would say is get seed oils out of your system. At the very least, stop cooking with seed oils. If you have canola oil in your house, get rid of it. Use a coconut oil, a butter, or if you prefer to stick to something without the saturated fat for whatever reason you think that it's bad, then avocado and olive oil, I'd say, would be your sort of replacement for that. But yeah, takeaway is get rid of seed oils. Don't have them in your body. Don't have them in your house. You will be a lot better and it will probably safeguard your health for decades to come. But yeah, next episode we will talk about, coming onto the nuts and seeds, what parts of the plant should you eat and what parts of a plant shouldn't you eat. We've been told that plants are super healthy, and that being plant-based is super healthy, and that, you know, all your ills will be quashed and all your problems will be solved by going plant-based. Is that true? Is it not? What's my experience? We will talk about that in the next episode. So yeah, let me know if you like this one. It was a bit of a weird one. I'm not sure how it will land with people. Again, because it's a very scientific and also controversial topic, and not everyone will be able to wrap their head around it. There's a lot of terms being floated around. We've heard about seed oils, but people don't really understand it. So if you want me to do another one on it, or if you just thought it was kind of whack, just let me know. All right, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Peace.
Okay guys, we're gonna go through a basic tutorial of the 8 standard punches and the 5 standard combos from Beyond Fitness LA. This will get you up to speed with the very, very basics of striking, as well as a little bit of footwork, and get you started with your boxing fitness career. So without much further ado, we are going to get started. We're all gonna line up with our feet shoulder width apart. Now we're going to take a natural step back with our strong foot. Bend your knees, bounce up and down, bounce side to side. Make sure you're agile. So you want to be kind of not stuck in a rut. You want to be loose, able to move. What's the important thing about boxing is footwork. Footwork is going to move you into and out of a fight. It's going to help you close distance. It's the most important thing in boxing. It's your foundation. So it's something that a lot of beginners neglect, and it means they never actually progress past a very, very basic level because they don't have their foundation, which is their footwork. It's super, super important. So we're going to drill footwork real quick. You take your strong foot back, as we said. You have this kind of 45-degree angle for our feet. Your front foot should be pointed basically forward, and your back foot should be pointed basically 45 degrees. A lot of boxers have a more narrow stance. That's okay, but it has its advantages and its weaknesses. A lot of boxers have a very square stance, also has its advantages and weaknesses. We're going to be somewhere in the middle in this 45-degree angle, and nice and loose in the hips, okay? This gives us the best of both worlds. It gives us power and mobility. So we're going to start moving. We're going to move forward with our front foot. So what that means is you take a step with your front foot, and then you bring your back foot with you back into that fighting stance, that 45-degree angle. So you open with the front foot, push with the back, close, and that's a forward step. You're going to move forward again, forward, one more time, forward. Beautiful. Now you're going to take your back foot and go back with the back foot. If you can see me, back with the back foot. Good. Back with the back foot. Make sure you don't shuffle back, but you actually step back on your back foot first. That keeps your feet wide and keeps you in a fighting position. You don't want your feet here close, which means you move forward with the forward, back with the back. Again, forward, back. Beautiful. Now we're going to go left and right, same rules apply. Left with the left foot, boom. Right with the right, boom. Left with the left, right. Left, right, left, right, left. Forward, right. Forward, right. Good. Back, left, right. Back, left, right. All right, cool. So those are the basics. If you got a little bit flustered with that, don't worry about it. Just keep drilling it, it will become that. The most important thing you know is that your feet are wide and agile, and you're able to move and strike all at the same time. Okay, so keep those feet nice and wide. Moving up from your footwork into the core of your body, which is where you're going to generate power for your punches. It's like the engine for your car. This is where your power for your strikes come from. It's here. Your core, your abs, your obliques, your glutes, all of this midsection. So, in order to get you to generate power from your core and not your upper body, which is what beginners do, we're actually going to try a drill where you put your hands behind your back, right here. You're going to take your lead hip, you're going to rotate it 90 degrees this way, and that's going to rotate your shoulders. Your chest should be facing off to one side and then come back. So you rotate your lead hip 90 degrees and back. Rotate and back. Okay, same thing with your back hip, but this time, because your kind of hip is locked, because it's behind you, you're going to have to release that base foot. So if you can see my foot, if you can see Jan Jacob's feet right here, they're actually rotating that back foot like a golf swing, or you're putting out a cigarette, or just pushing a bar, okay? And you go back. Rotate that base foot, boom, and back. Rotate base foot, boom, and back. Really important that you rotate the base foot. This is something that beginners don't do, or they forget to do when they're going live. They get lost and they forget about their feet and they just start rotating only from their shoulders. No, let your legs do the work, okay? So you shift your body weight and you twist that back foot. Good. So that's generating powerful punches from the hips. Now, basic fighting, the different styles of boxing, but we're gonna just do a pretty basic one. Hands up, elbows into your ribs, squeeze your abs, bend your knees, drop your hips. Add that looseness into the hips, okay? Take your elbows, cover your ribs nice and tight. Don't have your elbows out here. You're not protecting your ribs. If you get hit in the ribs or the organs, it's game over. So, elbows are tight into your ribs. Add that looseness in the hips, make sure you don't get too stiff. Now, drop your chin, make two fists, cover the jaw both sides around your cheek. Your knuckles should be on your cheeks. Your thumb rests lightly on top of your pointer finger, right here. Chin down. Why chin down? Because you're an easy side, you put the chin up. So we drop the chin, we pick up the shoulders, we squeeze the core, and we make ourselves small and tight. If you're small and tight, not only are you generating power for your punches from the tightness, the elastic energy, but you're also making yourself smaller so you're a harder target to hit. If you're big and open, you're gonna get hit a lot easier. So small and tight, okay? So hands over the jaw, eyes forward, keep yourself nice and tight. From here, we're gonna start throwing punches. So, like we did with the first hip drive, you're gonna rotate your hips, rotate your shoulders, and boom, strike your middle knuckle to your own face in the mirror, or in front of you, whatever you're looking at. Your middle knuckle should strike right in front of you. You wanna pick up your shoulder to cover your jaw, and the other hand stays protecting. So in my case, it's my right hand covering my jaw and my right elbow covering my rib. And back. Rotate jab, rotate back. Rotate jab, rotate back. If you're just getting started, this is the pace. Okay, don't go too quick because your nervous system needs to learn the movement. And it's only gonna learn the movement if you're nice and slow and smooth. Don't rush through it, nice and relaxed. The other thing you wanna do is breathe. So try to blow out the birthday candle as you jab. Come back. And back. And back. Look at the rotation of the hips. Okay? Now we're gonna go to the backhand, the cross. For the cross, your wrist straight, your back straight is called a cross. We're gonna do the same thing with the backhand. Ready? You're gonna rotate that back hip, rotate that back shoulder, boom, strike. Middle knuckle to your own face in the mirror in front of you or right in front of you. Pick your shoulder up, your other hand, in this case your lead hand, your left hand, covering your jaw and your elbows. And back, nice and slow, rotate cross, rotate back. Rotate cross, rotate back, rotate cross, rotate back. If you want to start adding a little bit of power, you can do it, but make sure you're going to all the basics. Meaning the other hand is protecting, the hips are driving your punch. Your shoulder comes up to protect your jaw. You're striking with your middle knuckle and you're breathing through your punches. Okay, back to jab, now jab, 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 cross, cross, cross. Okay, shake it. Breathe, nice. So those are your straight punches. Now we're gonna move on to your hook punches. The next two basic punches coming from your lead hip, your lead hook, and your rib. Now the first thing I like to do, especially with beginners, is make sure that they're loading their hooks. So just like you load a bow and arrow before you let that arrow go, we're gonna load the hook in before we strike horizontally. If you're a real pro, you could probably get away with a much smaller or even a non-existent load. But for a beginner, you're gonna wanna load. So we're here, neutral, the way we load, take our rear shoulder forward, twist the spine, don't lean, but twist, so you have balance. Okay, back to neutral, back to this base firing position. Load, neutral, load, neutral. Good. Now from here, from this loading position, you're gonna rotate the front foot, boom, rotate the front hip, boom, and then you're gonna strike that lead hook. And your hand, your fist kind of lines up with your face. don't want to tie your hook over here. You want to send your hook this way. So your arm's kind of back, your chest is open, and it's your core doing the work, not your shoulder. Okay, that's a rookie move, a beginner mistake, this. Or get your core to send that hook. You're going to have a lot more power and speed. So we're here, we're going to go neutral. We're going to load from the leg, we're going to pivot the front foot 90 degrees and boom. Look what I do with that front foot. I'm putting out that cigarette again. Boom. Neutral. Load. Neutral. Load. Boom. Boom. So we're going to put that all together. That's your lead hook. Okay, it's your lead hook. Your, in this case, left, your front side hook. The hook is a horizontal. 90 degrees in the elbow of the bed, striking to the side of the head, the jaw, and the temple. Okay, so we're here neutral. Gonna load and hook. Ready? And lead hook. Lead hook. Nice and slow and smooth. Lead hook. And lead hook. If you want to add power now, you can add power. That elbow, make sure the elbow is up. And our beginners can start to drop the elbow here. Elbow up, hips twisted, other hand protected. Okay, so that's your lead hook. We're gonna move to your rear hook now. You need a bit of a less of a load here. We're just gonna come here. You're gonna load your lead shoulder and boom, rear hook, other hand protects. Remember, you're not striking here, but here. Twist the hips, middle knuckle right in front of you. Back to neutral, load, hook. Neutral, load, hook. Put it all together, that's your rear hook. Ready? And rear hook. Rear hook. Rear hook. Perfect. So you got your lead hook, rear hook, you got jab across. Now we're moving on to uppercuts. Okay? Again, I'm going to teach it to you with the load to generate power for this. Now, before we load it across, now we're loading it down a little bit. So you're going to take your rear shoulder, load it down towards your lead foot. Okay, that's going to generate kinetic potential energy for you to uppercut. The uppercut is coming right under the jaw, so it has to be dead vertical here. Blade into your chest, that's full power. Look at my foot is rotating. Same thing as the hook, except now it's vertical. Neutral, load, uppercut. Neutral, load, uppercut. Neutral, load, uppercut. Beautiful. Put it all together. That's your lead uppercut. I mean, right under the jaw. Ready? Lead uppercut. Lead uppercut. Lead uppercut. Beautiful. Same thing on the rear side. You're going to load your lead shoulder towards your rear foot. Bam. Rear uppercut. Elbow straight. 90-degree bend in the elbow. Boom. Coming under the jaw, striking with your middle knuckle. Your palm, by the way, should twist and face you. So my palm faces me, my knuckles face away. Neutral, load, uppercut. Neutral, load, uppercut. Yeah. Okay, shake it up. Now we're gonna move to body shots. We did our jab, cross, lead hook, rear hook, lead uppercut, rear uppercut. Now we're doing lead body and rear body. Okay? So from here, nice and neutral, nice and relaxed. We're gonna load just like we did for the uppercut. Except we're coming with a shovel hook to the body. Shovel meaning it's kind of 45 degree here, and your palms kind of facing you. It's called a shovel because you're like digging it. You're digging your fist into your opponent's kind of rib area, right? So it's like, boom, shoveling it. I like the 45 degree angle, palm kind of facing up, body twisted, boom, other hand protecting, back to neutral. Load, body shot. Neutral, load, body shot, neutral. Put it all together, that's your lead body shot. Ready? And lead body shot. Lead body shot. Lead body shot. Okay? Down to the rear side. Lead shoulder comes down towards your rear knee, right there. Bam, rear body shot. Shoveling into the body, striking with your middle arm. Neutral, load, rear body shot. Neutral, load, rear body shot. By the way, another thing that beginners do is they drop their hand on the wall. They go like this. One is slow. Two, the other guy can see, the other person can see it coming. It's very easy for the eye to see this, okay? Much harder to defend against that. So keep your hand as tight as you can to your face and bring it back to your face, especially when you're a beginner. As you get more advanced, you can have that kind of down style where your hands are by your hips and you're goading the other person into attacking you. But if you're a defender, keep everything tight. So we're here, hand stays tight as I load, bam, okay? You're not giving up any defense, but you're taking the offense. Back to neutral all time and rear body shot. One thing, practice. And those are the 8 basic strikes. So if you need to go through this again, go through it again. We're going to come up with another video that's just going to be a much shorter one, drilling those 8 basic punches. And then we're going to move to more advanced punches after that. But yeah, enjoy, have fun with it. Let me know what you think. Peace.